Murphy, what were some of your initial thoughts on Strange Bedfellows?
I like that this episode sort of takes we get to see the Breen and the Breen and the Dominion sort of working, and we get to see the scenes of the founder working with the Breen contingent or whatever that comes on to Cardassia, and it's neat because those initial conversations between the founder, between the Dominion and the Breen, we don't see that really in the beginning so much with Cardassia and the Dominion. Ducat flies off and they join, and we see a little bit, and we see the relationship between Ducat and stuff. But that dialogue, I imagine Damar watching this and being like, this is exactly what you told us 3 years ago. And there's a great line, I think it's in a future episode, one of those we'll cover, but there's a really good line where Damar turns to the Breen commander and he says, the Dominion will have sung our praises as well. And that's really where you see this going. The Cardassians are now the redheaded stepchild in this little family, and Damar is keenly aware of this. Yeah, and he knows it's going to go bad. And I think, in reference to the last episode too, when Ducat does give him that little pep talk, Ducat knows bad things are coming for Cardassia, and if you don't fix this, get back to who you are, we are doomed. Cardassia's fate lies with you. But yeah, it's interesting. You even talk about their whole wedding stuff and the prophets and more about Kai Winn. But yeah, I like this episode for its exploration of how internal politics within the Dominion works, especially when it comes to occupied Cardassia, because that's who they are. Cardassia is on the way to becoming Bajor. And that's a really interesting idea. Anyway, yeah, what did you guys think?
Megan?
Yeah, a bit of a different kind of like high level takeaways is the main theme that I felt this episode is what happens, or even just watching and experiencing true believers lose their faith. And it happened in a bunch of different ways to a bunch of different people. It happened to Damar when that scene where he was looking in the mirror and he flung the drink at his reflection and he realized just how far the Dominion had fallen, his place, his ability to act had fallen, and just the self-loathing. That was, I think, a really powerful moment. When this kills me for Kira. Kira's the one that really hit me in this episode, because Tom, as you mentioned in the last episode, Sisko had a conversation with Kira about whether or not he should follow the will of the prophets, and he was going to. And Kira was so happy because this person that she cares about, both on a personal level and as the leader of her faith, the emissary of her faith, which is so important to her, was following the will of the prophets. It seemed like against his own wishes for the first time, giving her this hope, this belief, he gets it. Finally, he gets it. And then Kai Winn, who she's had problems with for years, expresses the self-doubt about, am I good enough? Do I need to change? What can I do to make this better? And then she doesn't.
Yep.
And she won't give up the power. And Kira, again, had been given this hope that she was going to do it. She was going to behave in accordance with the faith. And it's just that blow after blow from these people that are so important to her for whatever reason, that really hit me. And just what an example of how ultimately power is going to corrupt.
Yeah. On both sides in two different directions, yeah. Which is that's really interesting. I hadn't actually thought about that at all, but that makes so much sense. And that look on her face at the end where she's just kind of like,
just,
yeah.
It killed me. Yeah. So I think it was fascinating. And then the it could probably be made for the same with the Worf and Ezri subplot, but to a lesser extent. I think I feel like we've got a bit of a conclusion to that relationship arc. They've sorted their stuff out.
Yeah.
All they needed was like 8 empty pint glasses beside them, and it would have been very understandable.
Yeah.
But yeah, that my big thing was this is the episode where people's belief is utterly shaken. And now the rest of the season is going to be the denouement and the fallout from that. So the plot is firmly entrenched, but everyone's personal foundation is a little shaken.
I'm going to start with Damar because he's always been one of my favorite characters. And I had forgotten the final broken straw for him, which was the annihilation of the 11th Order by the Klingons. And that was 500,000 Cardassians. And then the next scene, he's drinking in his room. He has the moment of as we say, the aha moment in AA. And he throws the alcohol across the glass and he realizes how far down. And you can't get sober until you're ready to get sober. And at that moment, I saw in his eyes, he was ready to get sober. So that was a really powerful scene for me. And he is, as you said, Megan, such a deep believer, but he has such love and reverence for Cardassia as a symbol, as a people, as a planet. And he felt the loss of 500,000 men, probably the way he would feel the loss of one man or 500,000 soldiers. So I found that very, very powerful. I loved the Kai Winn arc to go to the dark side. And that's exactly what I thought. She has gone to the dark side. God bless her. She's finally come home to the dark side.
Yeah.
Power of the dark side. I loved it. And she just looked evil.
Yeah, she has a line at the end that I love where she says, she's sort of ranting about Cisco and ranting about Synthetic Assembly. And she says they'll all be swept aside like dead leaves before an angry wind, which I just absolutely love. It's such a good line.
Yes. So I really liked that whole, it was 3 or 4 or maybe 2 or 3 steps after the pirates and then the Kira and then her self-confessions, etc. The other thing I loved was the wedding and particularly Admiral Ross. And I loved that because he stole that speech from Jean-Luc Picard, who stole it from Captain Kirk in the original series. And it was a complete homage to our 2 favorite previous series, TNG and TOS. I think you could have almost read that line for line from Kirk's speech in Operation Annihilate, where he marries 2 people. And so I really, really, really enjoyed that.
Could it be the official Starfleet wedding ceremony?
It may be in the Gene Roddenberry Star Trek universe, perhaps, or Gene Roddenberry influenced or inspired that. And I spoke about this in the last episode, but I really saw this honing down of the storylines. And I felt like when we got to this episode, we're at the starting line for the end.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't wait. And I felt that excitement again. And I know I talked about that, so I won't talk about it again. So obviously we had the wedding. We had, you correctly noted, the banter, the teenage banter continued a little bit. Worf and Ezri, thank God that's over.
Yeah.
No more bed
It's
scenes.
been a long slog.
No more bed scenes with Kai Winn, smoking or not smoking, post-coitus. And the scene with Damar, Worf, and Ezri.
That was good.
And where he kills the Jem'Hadar guards.
He kills Weyoun. He snaps Weyoun's neck. And then
that was Worf.
That was Worf. Worf kills Weyoun because Weyoun makes some insinuating comment about Ezri, and then Worf just breaks his neck. And the Cardassian guards are about to shoot him, and Damar stops them and just bursts out laughing, which is the catharsis he must feel just watching Weyoun get killed. And yeah, he totally loves it. I think maybe that's one of the tipping points that is, you did me such a favor, I'm going to do you a favor. In addition to his sort of, I think that he's like, I could have you killed, but I mean, you did me such a solid in brutally murdering this guy that I hate. Yeah, I think it's a great moment.
The only reason I would say that couldn't have been a tipping point was because I think he had the runabout ready. And he had planned that because he said, 2 levels up, there's a runabout that will get you to Deep Space Nine.
Yeah. But he doesn't say that until the end of the episode. Yeah.
But that speech, and you see, and they actually shot Damar in a different light. So he appeared to be lighter and appeared that the weight of the world was off his chest or something had changed.
Yeah.
And so we will now see him switch a little bit, obviously. But I thought that was, and I had forgotten, I remembered him saying what he said, but I hadn't remembered it was based on questions from Worf and Ezri.
Mm-hmm.
Why should we trust you? Why are you doing this? What does this mean? it means you have a friend on Cardassia.
Yeah.
So that whole scene, but I forgot, yes, the snap of the neck, and Worf lost it.
Yeah.
He lost it. And it was great.
It's a
And
very brooding murder on the series. And we've seen a couple of these before, but yeah, it happens really fast and it's quite shocking because it's just dialogue before that and then just instantly kills William. Then we get to meet William 8 after that, I think. 8 or 9.
9, I think we're at
We're at
9.
9? Yeah.
yeah, he's not having a good week.
No.
Anyway, I really enjoyed this episode. I love the way it pointed. I love Kai Winn going to the dark side. It's finally just drop all pretenses, drop all trappings, and do it.
Yeah.
Go dark.
The process of it, though, is like during that conversation with Kira, I thought that it was such a heart-wrenching moment because she was so close. She was so close to getting it, but she just couldn't cede the personal power. I found it not difficult to watch, but it really grabbed me in just the intensity of it.
I immediately went, after I watched this episode, and I went back and I watched an episode called Shakar, where he becomes the first minister and risks civil war over the farm equipment. And it's that same, it's that thing in her that's sort of like, you don't understand. I'm the only one that sees things clearly. I need to be here. It's this thing in her nature of just, I have one thing, even though the prophets have never spoken to me. I'm going to pretend like they have because that's my only thing. Yeah, go on.
It's like that adage of those who seek power should never have it,
Yeah.
right? And it's just she's the embodiment of that.
Very much so.
So in terms of getting us ready for the final run, do you think this episode set it up, or were you guys already convinced based upon our last episode?
I think there's some surprises coming down the pipe. I think we have a couple, I think there are a few one-off episodes that sort of tie in. But for the most part, yeah, I think what's going to happen next is pretty, I wouldn't say shocking, but there's definitely some moments where you're going to be like, this is getting heavier and heavier and heavier as we go forward. It definitely feels like we're approaching somewhere.
Megan, what did you think of Kira turning down a glass of champagne or other at the wedding?
Oh, that was, I think that was right at the end of the last episode. And I think it was in between when Sisko had disappointed her and when Kai Winn does. So I think she was not in the mood to celebrate because I think she believes with her whole self bad things are going to happen because of this wedding.
Yes.
Yeah, it was nothing to celebrate for her. And it was, I think she has like the self-awareness to not take it personally because it's her friend, Benjamin Sisko. But it's still a blow.
Mm-hmm.
I think she was really grieving. That's how I took it at the end. She was grieving.
Yeah.
What she could have been. Not something that she lost, but something that could have been, which was a true believer Sisko. And she found out that she wasn't going to get it.
Let me pick up on a word you used. You said her friend, Ben Sisko. And that is a huge shift of where she was as lieutenant commander of the base.
Yeah.
And I love that you phrased it that way. Her friend, Ben Sisko. Yeah.
And I think I feel for her even more because in this season she doesn't have Jadzia. And Jadzia is the person and was the I don't know if she was the first real friend Kia had, but I think she was the first friend as an adult who Kira could relax and be goofy and have fun with after years of being a freedom fighter or a domestic terrorist, however you want to call it, and helped her manage a lot of the difficult interpersonal things. And now she's kind of having to do it alone. And I think the blows are coming faster and harder. And I don't have a super clear memory of the countdown for what's going to be happening. So I won't be surprised if she goes back to a little bit more to how she was in the earlier season.
Yeah, but now she has Odo.
She lost a lot of the supports.
Now
she has
Odo. When that's,
but they're like a unit unto themselves.
Yeah, that's true. I had a question real quick. The speech at the beginning of the episode that Martok gives Sisko, isn't it? About Sorella leaving the door open accidentally and his tar letting out. I love that so much. Oh my goodness. it's such a Martok thing to do. Be like, I wasn't at your wedding, but I'm going to tell you, enjoy the strife and calamity that you're about to go into your marriage with. Yeah. Oh, so good.
I took it a little differently. I took it as look at how horrible and strong and powerful my amazing wife is.
Yeah.
Isn't she awful?
Awful.
Aren't I great to have her?
He does.
Aren't I the coolest man to have the toughest wife?
And he says it. She's multiple times in the series. She's like, I wouldn't give her away for anything. I love her. She makes my life miserable, but I find her adversarial nature to be the most wonderful thing ever. Yeah.
And I absolutely love that speech. But here's the part I love the most. My wife, who was sitting down professing not to watch either episode, and is on scrolling, playing some stupid game on her computer. At the end of that speech, she just looked at me and nodded. She had heard the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Wow.
And then, so even she resonated with her.
Yeah.
But then the next scene where Cassidy comes into their quarters and Ben's cooking dinner, Captain Cisco's cooking dinner. And at the very end, when she's going off for her sonic shower, he dumps a bunch of cayenne pepper into the jambalaya or whatever he's cooking. And he says, so it begins.
Yes.
So yes, I absolutely love that speech. It turned out that was a filler. They needed some extra time because they'd moved or they had an opening. What a lovely, just perfect Klingon speech. But and I love the way he described his animal at the heart of a warrior.
Yeah.
Although he's mangy and stinky and smelly and frothing, the heart of
Like
a
his
warrior.
wife.
It's like his wife.
I miss filler. I wish TV shows still had filler, but you just don't get that kind of thing much
You're right.
anymore.
So anyway, should we maybe do a few words to end on mini lightning round?
Yeah. There's some.
I can,
Oh,
this
go ahead.
one, oh, go ahead. I said this one just, it left me, it was one of those ones where I really had to struggle to not press continue
Mhm.
and just keep watching. So I can't, I thought this was a brutal and fantastic episode, and I can't wait to see the fallout.
Yeah, this is a really good one in a lot of weird little ways. It has a ton of snippets of good dialogue. Like I said, Breen's little monologue at the end of the episode. I mean, there were some good moments where Damar Williams clone walks back in and Damar's needles somebody saying something or other, and is maybe you should go have another conversation with Worf. And the look on Wayun's face after that is just so. Oh yeah, I like this one. It's fun, but it definitely feels like we're moving faster and faster towards something, and we still haven't seen the end result of what this is going to be with the Breen and what the result of that is. But I'm positive the wedding happened. Everybody's doing okay. Warp at every escape. It's It ends on a slightly positive note, which is good.
When I was in high school, I was what we used to call a miler. I ran long distance races. And at that time, the longest race in the state of Texas was a mile. And we always ran the next to last event. So I had all day to sit around while they did the prelims and the finals of the shorter races. And you would focus all your energy on the time you were on the starting line. And when I got to the end of this episode, that's what I felt like. I'm on the starting line for the final mile, and I can't wait. I know I talked about it in the last episode, so I won't repeat that, but I can't wait for the gun to go off. And it's about to.
Yeah.
All right, guys, can't wait till next week.
Till then.